you dance like nobody's watching, and you just play. And I think that's the most important part that I got from Sonny was the music and the ability to play.
But the whole idea was having it behind the finger here, and if you have to poke somebody in the chest, you hit the right place. It's electrical shock.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of VSCK Podcast. I'm Gregory Manalo. I'm here with Jason Santucci and Renato Alfonso. Today, we're going to talk about how Sonny Umpad has influenced us. And to kick things off, I would like to say Sonny influenced me in a tremendous amount of ways. So for folks who don't know, I also do theater, especially during my late teens and early 20s. I did a particular type of theater which was rooted in guerrilla theater from the Philippines, which was derived from the Marcos regime people power movement, and it was called Bitaw workshops, and that was basically to empower college students to do street theater at these anti-Marcos rallies. And so it was a very immediate and attainable way for people to protest against martial law and all the other political issues in the Philippines at the time. I learned that type of theater here in the Bay Area, and a lot of it was movement based, and a lot of it was less about what you would say and what kind of shapes and figures you can create. And so on top of that, I brought my martial arts experience, if you would, and my body awareness around what kind of shapes to use, and even down to something more literal like Datu Lapu Lapu Day and the reimagining of the beheading of Magellan. And so I think the key takeaway about that was how VSCK and how Sonny created this system that made us very aware of ourselves and our bodies, and also with other people. And so getting that spatial awareness, but also being able to read other people's movements and anticipate that, but also to work together in this sense of theater was really great. And a lot of people actually thought I was a dancer going into theater, but I was like, no, I just practice martial arts. And they're like, oh, what kind of martial arts? And I would tell them, it's Filipino martial arts or eskrima. And they would have no idea. Or they thought, if they heard about it, they thought it was gang related, because there was a stigma around Filipino martial arts at the time before it became super popular. So that's one aspect. I think another aspect for me, again, it's just taking that body awareness and kind of spatial relational aspect to it was in my salsa dancing. And so some people know me also as a salsa dancer, Cuban salsa dance in the Bay Area. And again, it really came down to being self-aware, body mechanics, and relating to, in this sense, not necessarily an opponent, but more as a partner, and being in the right place at the right time, but also making your partner look good. And that always reminded me of the times that Sonny, and I'd hear stories of Sonny being an amazing dancer, hustle dancer, and how women just would line up to dance with him because he made them look good. And the more I was able to dance, the more I could connect with that and understand, like, okay, well, I see what it takes to be a really good leader, but also how martial arts translates into dance. So something we talked about in our previous episode, but that's a bit about how Sonny influenced me. I mean, on top of just how he influenced the way I teach eskrima and how I teach his art VSCK, it's not necessarily through memorizing techniques, but it's through understanding what's happening, managing what's happening, and then doing what's appropriate for the given circumstance. And a lot of that is because of flow training and pendulum-based training. And so some might call it random flow. So nothing is predetermined in that sense, and everything is progressive in that you just given them a bit to work on, and you kind of scaffold on top of that. And so I could go on and on about how he's influenced me and how he's influenced my teaching, but I'm going to pass it over to Renato to share his experiences and how Sonny influenced him.
Wow, that was a great intro. First of all, let me get this out of my head because it's coming into my head. I got to say that you're pretty popular, Greg, because I had several phone calls,
What?
from people in Europe, like actually five. They call me, hey, blah 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 blah. So they're listening to your podcast. So your influence also from Sonny's to you to everybody else, and then wanting to listen to what you have to say and share is pretty good. And they were very delighted to hear about Sonny. I just talked to Pierre, Tom from he's in Italy now. He called me, and so there's people in Europe that are just hearing you, listening to this talk about Sonny. So it's been pretty. So the influence keeps going, right? So I love that you can share that. In terms of Sonny, there wasn't much. Not that there wasn't much. Let me just say this because you have your own brand of teaching and sharing what you crystallize in your body. So I think that's been the most important part is that you took what you got from Sonny and making it your own, and now you're sharing it in your own way. One of the things that Sir's teacher said is one of the best ways to kill an art is to preserve it. And all that meant to me is you need to keep layering it, adding your goulash into it, and then it keeps growing, and that's how the art grows, right? You may lose some part of it, but what you internalize in your body is what you're sharing, which is the most part. Obviously, everybody else has their own take. Jason, my take, all the other people. So that's all growing in their own way and with their own stuff into it. So I think that's the best part about it. For me, the biggest thing that I recognize the most, besides his, I want to talk about his craftsmanship right now, because to me, that's the most important part. But to me, the only thing he told me was, whatever you're doing with this or whatever it is that we're learning is put music on. So music has a very strong influence on me in terms of, and even to this day, I'll put it on and I'll feel the bass line, I'll feel the rhythm line or whatever, and I'm doing what I'm going to do, right? Or imagine whatever it is. So in my head, I look good though, right? but you dance like nobody's watching, and you just play. And I think that's the most important part that I got from Sonny was the music. The music and the ability to play and imagine and throw things out there. So I think I've had that in my head every time. And every time I put a thing that he has in my hands, you just channel whatever's coming through and then you just play, right? Whether it's short or long or whatever it is that you're going to do. I think to me, that's the most, if I can share anything to anybody, it would be that. Right? Go play, go have fun, have this one thing in your head for right now, and just see what comes out of your body, right? And pretend like nobody's watching, because that's where you free yourself to explore, right? And that's the thing that I got from Sonny is to explore, go have fun, put some music on, whether it doesn't matter how you look, it's just go play, right? So that's the biggest. I mean, I have lots of stuff to share with that, but that's the biggest thing for me was that transfer of stuff, right? And I think if you stay in that environment, more things will come out of you, or you'll discover more things out of your body. That felt awkward. Let me see what else I can do. Oh, my left hand's not moving. Maybe I can play with that. So all those things come into play. So for me, that's the biggest thing I'd like to share to people. If there's anything I could share from Sonny, obviously there's all the other stuff, the accuracy, the cutting, and all the martial portion of it. But to me, to gain access to what he was doing, it would be that, right? The music and the play, right? And just have fun, right?
Yeah, I'm curious as to if we drilled into that a bit more. I can only assume why he might suggest music, to set the tone and the tempo, but
Yeah.
also to play with kind of these polyrhythms. But then, what do you mean also by play, as opposed to, I mean, not to be,
Yeah,
oppositional, but
I think the freedom of, like, he can put Zen music in the background, and all of a sudden you're flowing with that, right? And then he can put some rhythm on, right? Uh, and play with those kind of rhythms, and whoever's coming in can kind of, without knowing, can come into that modality. Then all of a sudden you're in that mode, and then now he can share whatever he's sharing, right? So he picks and chooses what he wants to share, but he sets a tone. Have you guys noticed that? With the music, he sets a tone that way, or whatever's going through his head, he'll set the tone, and that's when he starts looking at where you're at, where he wants you to be. I think that's what I picked up, right? And so I think the music has a lot to do with it. He made his own music. He was a bass player. He started doing keyboard stuff, and just part of his inventory was the music portion of it, right? So, anyways, did I answer your question, Greg?
yeah, I think so. I think so for sure. I mean, I could definitely testify to that. He was a DJ of sorts, sometimes we wouldn't get started until he dropped the cassette in, and was like, all right.
Cassette, what's that?
right. In his
Well,
2-deck cassette player.
It's
Yeah.
not the 8-track, but okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In that sense, he's a maestro, as in a conductor, as a conductor of tempo and mood and tone. And so, especially, for people coming into his apartment, he's not trying to have people thrash the place,
Right.
but
Right.
also it's kind of a easy way for him to say, like, just calm down and do it slowly. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, there's other factors that his influence on me, but not so much in terms of show. Like, Jason has a lot more experience with what he got. His Sonny's influence materialized into things that people actually see and use. So, I mean, Jason, like, can you share some of the things that you learned from Sonny and how that moved forward for you?
Sure. First of all, early on, it was teaching. He had me teaching pretty quick because he wanted to get guys that I work with up to speed enough that I could train the stuff that I wanted to train that I couldn't necessarily do in there, like kind of like layering and grappling and all that other kind of stuff that wasn't really, his house was not super suitable for that. So early on, it was teaching some of those basics to get people so we could, as Renato says, play, and just trial and error and figure stuff out under, more resistance, more speed, more power, and kind of figure out what works for me personally, and, anybody else who was like playing around with that. And I had a bunch of guys, that I trained with, they're like, man, I can't do that. Like that's not going to, I tried it, 10 times and it failed 10 times, I was like, all right, well, what's going to work? Like where, sometimes just having a basis of something that, like, this, I don't know if this is going to sound right, but having something that, how to repeat, even if it's failing, if you can repeat it the same way and then see how it's failing, then you have a path to somewhere else and to like help that work. Cause there's, we all know there's stuff Sonny could do that probably none of us could do. Right. And so that's not going to work, but knowing it and then figuring out your way, whatever that is, to attach to it. So like early on was definitely teaching to have, a more integrated version of like all the ranges of not just, the striking aspects, because ultimately that's what most knife stuff is to begin with. But layering and the grappling aspects to that too. And like, fighting for control of weapons and stuff like that is not real prominent in I'm going to say traditional FMA so much. I mean, except there's strips and disarms and stuff like that. But the like bare scramble to not die and take something away from somebody is not, it's much more eloquent than that. And that's what I was looking for, you know? So early on teaching, meeting people that way, doing that kind of stuff. And hopefully like most of the time teaching people that already knew how to move, because I'm not very good at teaching beginner stuff. Right. But like more advanced people, I can explain stuff to easier because they don't need the other stuff, but they could get what I was trying to say easier. And that just made it more rewarding. But also too, it was cool, like being able to like talk to certain people that could be a certain high level of something, and watching the light go off for them. And it's not, I'm just telling them what like I learned, and maybe I'm saying it my own way, but it's through Sonny, and watching these guys like light up and go like, whoa, right? Like, where'd you learn this? That was very cool stuff. But doing through work, and again blending Sonny stuff into everything else, his awareness of street smarts, all that kind of stuff, like using that as a basis for working bars and clubs for a good part of my life, was super helpful. And to be clear too, it wasn't the you're not working the door somewhere and like ask somebody for an ID and they say no, so you stab them. Like that's not what it was for. There's like so many other layers to that. And honestly, the serious and the dangerous and the nasty and the dark side, as we discussed, that stuff was for the walk to the car later. But later after that was I started working in the I hate to say the word, but for lack of a better word, the tactical industry, like back before it was really called that. And work for a company that was pretty big early on. They were one of the first that kind of, I don't want to say jumped on the bandwagon, but really kind of formed all that stuff that, tactical knives, lights, and all that kind of stuff. And early on, I got to start influencing designs and things like that. Later on, kind of took the division over and have been running the division for that for a decade and a half, a little longer. But the one thing that I didn't want to say, because Sonny had done so much stuff in the past where there are other big name people and whatever, where he would just give things away freely. Like people say, what's the best this? What's the best that? And Sonny would draw it, and then they'd go make it, and it would be theirs. It wouldn't be his. And he'd always kind of like, and I would be offended, but he's just like, but in my way, what I can do on my end is like, I've got to work with huge knife makers over the years. Like I've done probably hundreds of projects at this point. And some of them, the influence is very small, just like little bits and pieces of something that's theirs and like little changes and whatever. Some of them some of them are, ground up. But my way of getting there is the same as it was sitting in his room, sitting at the kitchen and working with the rudimentary tools that he had, where he did amazing things. Like I did adequate stuff to get somebody better than me to be able to figure out what to do. But I mean, working with people like Daniel Winkler and there's so many out there. One of the things that we did in addition with him, and again, it was like kind of perfect for Sonny, because it was taking something that they made, and then I just did a bunch of different reiterations of it. And this is a pretty popular knife through a very popular knife maker in the industry, and no one knows, right? Because I'm working through a company, so I'm not putting my name out. I'm not putting out the background of all that kind of stuff. But like a knife now that's like really pretty sought after, that's out there, I made with putty and like cut out plastic and like formed it just like I would have done with Sonny. And like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show this easy, but this was like one of the first iterations was this, right? And so this is just like modeling putty of some kind. So where you like working on the handle, and then this was a reshaping of the blade. And I did probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 of these to get to where They needed to. A bunch of them have decayed and fallen apart at this point. But the big thing for me and for Sonny that I took from him was drawing and the alignment of the tip to the hand and having a rudder. Now, granted, this knife wasn't designed to be purely as a defensive knife. It was designed to be kind of an all-around, do everything knife, but definitely leaning on that. So there are some differences to it. But at the end of the day, and most people probably don't know this, but this is it's called the Tad Belt Knife Edition, something like that, out of from Daniel Winkler, and so it's our version of the his belt knife. But it became super popular all on its own, and no one knows like this. That's straight from Sonny. Like this is 100% his design influence. And there's so much of that stuff that's out there and no one knows about. And I kind of want to put more of that out there because I want people to know where that stuff came from. And I'm not going to run down a list now because, like I said, it's been 15, 16, 17 years at this point. There's a bunch, but like doing that craft with him sitting at his table has like kept me employed for a long time. Doing something pretty cool, getting to work with people that are like way above my skill level. Like some of these knife makers are just amazing. Like some of them are like they were engineers before they did this, and like I'm not on there. I can't even barely speak to them because these guys are so much smarter than I am. But I can talk to them in design language because of the amount of time that we spent, one, using a tool in motion, and then our after time of us sitting down and then trying to like, what's good about this? What are the attributes you want? What do you want to accentuate? And then how do you get there? I spent a lot of time doing that with him. And so that allowed me to be able to talk with some of these guys that are just like, super, super high level dudes that are like at the top of their game. Like, hey, try this. And I'm like, whoa, where'd you come up with that? It's like, it wasn't me, it was like somebody else.
That's so cool.
And so, giving him credit for that is important, I think.
I'm curious as to what sounds like it's a lot of product development that was,
Yep.
Not necessarily product development. It was just like, how do we make this better? But what would you say that there's some key characteristics that is Sonny, right? Like that, just like that hook at the end where it aligns with your finger. That's a great kind of identifying factor in a design.
Yep.
Something you guys also talked about too is like hand feel, because a lot of makers just make a profile and it's like it looks cool, and then when I order it online and I get it in my hand, I'm like, it doesn't feel balanced or it doesn't feel right. So what are some characteristics you might say that are very Sonny?
So the big thing for me, and this is something that I found out like pretty early on. I think I was at a bigger knife show at like, I don't know, a couple of years in, and there was a couple of, and I won't say names, but like companies where guys that I were just killing it, and I like respected them, and they like did some amazing stuff, and I met one of their designers, and I was like, man, what's your process? How do you, and he was like, just on the computer, and I'm like, so you don't do a physical, you don't do, nope, just got to make it look right. And it was like, oh, and it killed me, right? A little bit. Now that's not everybody, that's, whatever, but it's like, you can be super successful by doing that and making that perfect aesthetic. You 100% can, but that isn't, whatever was the especially the idea behind what Sonny was doing, what he was imparting as far as like how to do something. He would make things look pretty, but the functionality had to be there. One of the other, like probably one of the earliest, if not the earliest projects I worked on, was for a show, and it was like a collaboration between like three rows, like our brand and two other brands doing a thing. And we were doing this, this big leather jacket. It was called the Street Fighter. and it was like a motorcycle jacket, and then we were going to have a knife included with it and something else. And so the basic knife design was already picked. I think I changed it and made it more of an acute point to make it closer to something that, you know, would be more usable instead of that big thick entry point that was like super popular at the time, that like big oversized Tonto type stuff that I didn't really have use for. But the one thing that I did that was straight from Sonny was, and I have no soft goods development at all. Like every once in a while I have little bits and pieces where I'll go into that world if they need be, but it's pretty rare. But I designed it so that there was a pocket in the seam right under the armpit on this side, and we designed the sheath so that on a rubber loop, that so if it was in there and you unzip it, it would present and it would show itself out, so you could just draw straight here, right? And that 100% was from Sonny. 100%. Just the idea of where you keep the knife. I won't say the what knife and all that kind of stuff and give up all that, but having that weapon hidden here, and I just modernized it with, I got to be like, play conductor with a bunch of other very talented people that were doing stuff, and I just like added that one little thing. But that was a big deal to me because I was like, that was so very much something that Sonny would do, and it's like one of those things like, man, I wish you could see that because he would really dig that, But I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that's super cool.
You did, and so much more, Jason, because if you look at Sonny's knife, this is my opinion, obviously, right? And I'm not a knife person, but I'll give an example. Most of Sonny's knife has a return. This part. Most of Sonny's knives have that. Like any one of this stuff that he does has a return. And to me, that had the personality of the ankla being one of them. The laogang portion in some arts, they call it that way, so that you have that the structure coming in. But if you look at all these knives, they have a return, and then you can align other structures with it. Right? That to me, that was cuerdas in my head. Right. So because of the pulling, the ankla, and all the fulcrums come from there, all the other stuff come in. But if you look at most of these knives, they have a return. I don't know what you call that, Jason. What would you call that? I'm calling it
the bird's head at the back. Yeah. I can't see because I'm blocked out here.
This part.
Which part? Yeah, that would be a bird's head or yeah.
If you look at most of his knives, they have some kind of bird's head.
Yeah.
And to me, I associate that with the ankla. And wait till Jason get into that part of the art, but that part and then the laogang portion or this portion part, right? To me, that was all part of the cuerdas in my head, the cordon cuerdas, right? And to me, the return was really the most, as you were talking, Jason, that's what I was picturing. That's what I was feeling in my hand when you showed that knife, and I got that return so that you can do other stuff with it, right? So anyway, so definitely that bird's head. I'm sure all the knives have those, some kind of stuff, but that's what I relate to Sonny's knives when I see them, because they always have that cuerdas portion of it and the retraction of it, right? So just to add to what Jason is saying, it does influence. That cuerdas is in all of his art, in all of his movement, whether the cordon cuerdas, right? That part of it, the ankla portion of it, everything is kind of rise to his art.
And for folks who aren't really familiar with the vocabulary, cordon and cuerdas, do you want to explain it? Then also ankla?
Those are just power generations terminology. Ankla being, that's another portion of it that Jason will touch into. But the cuerdas is just the retraction of it, right? Whether it's coming back, but cordon is going forward, cuerdas is coming back. And in the pendulum, it would be forward stepping and then backward stepping. In the second round, it would be the same thing. It would be forward and then coming back, right? So all those things are all the same, applied in different avenues, and it's basically a yin yang version of in the Eskrima terminology, yin and yang, right? Forward and the retraction, positive, negative kind of stuff, right? It's universal in all arts, but in Sonny's art, he coined it as cordon, forward, and cordas, coming back. But he had a different version. He had a small circle part of it, and that's all everything comes together, right? But he had the cordas portion in all of those things that he did. In fact, if you look at the draw for Jason, that is all part of what Jason picked. I'm saying Jason picked up, but that we all got from Sonny. But if you ever see Jason draw, it's like, yeah, that's an influence, right? So, do you agree, Jason?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. But go ahead, Jason.
I know you said all the arts have that. I feel, and whatever, from what I've seen, I feel like Sonny's how he expanded on the cordon cordas was far greater, and not the influence, the importance of it.
Yeah. I agree.
Right, was far, even, I mean, for sticks too, and you've got you get all those crazy angles, but also where the power generation on small knives, being able to make it count and actually do something, that stuff becomes so important, and one of the hardest things to get down. And yeah, there's the mindset of just this kind of thing, but if you can stop something before it starts, and also the speed and the deception that it puts out there, because having something retract faster than it goes out, you're chasing ghosts trying to keep up with what's going on.
Right.
And it's all part of, in my opinion, like, part of the deception is that's where you can get some of that speed, and that elusiveness is all part of that. And so that was, for me, a huge part of my focus, but also as far as, like, building stuff goes, that was a huge part of how I built things based off that.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've contributed to kind of this knife culture and knife industry, at least on the production side as a whole. And a lot of people have taken those style cues and functionality cues into what a lot of people are doing now. What are some other ways that Sonny's designs and influences that might have creeped into the industry?
I've seen a lot, and some from some really cool allies. There have been some folks out there that have, like, immediately recognized some of his stuff. They were doing a seminar. My work, we used to put seminars on for skill-based stuff, and there were some knife things, and I think I was sick that day, and when they came in, but I had a knife that I had made with Sonny on my desk, and they immediately were like, "Who is that?" Right? Like, who made, like, what's his deal? Where did he come from? Like, and was, like, very much. So there are people out there that, are into the idea of making something from nothing, I guess, which is, like, different than the knife industry as a whole. But it's definitely becoming more prevalent now. I'm seeing guys like, there's a huge prevalence of, like, taking old kitchen knives and doing things now, and that's Sonny and I used to go around to old butcher shops and take all their old stuff, like, that they didn't want, because I was poor, I didn't have money, I couldn't go buy stuff, and we get ones that were almost gone, whittled down, but they have good handles, and like you said, you find the knife in the knife. 2 halves of scissors are the beginning of 2 knives. Right. 1 pair of scissors is 2 knives, just waiting to figure out how to make that. There are now a bunch of stuff out there that there are scissor style knives out there now, and that's, like, just hitting now. I believe that mentality is changed dramatically from when I got into the business. It was these big, huge, like, enormous, overbuilt things that were neat, and they were different, and whatever else. But for me, it was a shock. I was like, you carrying that? That's a folder, and it weighs almost as much as a pistol does. Like, that doesn't, what are you going to do with that? that, right? Because it was so, and the cost just killed me. Like I was like, what? Because we'd make our own stuff. I mean, I had one or two expensive things that I bought, but that was a huge deal. You saved up for it, um, and one of the longest knives I carried was I think it was a Benchmade at the time, but it was the one that Sonny gave his nod to where he was like, that guy knows, right? And because of that, I carried that longer than probably carried every other knife that I've had, um, and taking a page out of his book, um, the sleeve of the jacket that I used to wear when I'd go to work, I'd cut in the collar, cut out a hole so that I could take the pocket clip and drive it down so it would be hidden in there so I could have it right there. So if I had somebody following me, I could pull it out this way and flick the blade open because it was tipped down, and they wouldn't see it. They wouldn't see me doing that. They wouldn't see me reaching for stuff, and that's all part of like the deception. And the coolest part about that is years later, I got to meet that guy because of trade show stuff, and they say don't, like, and he's a very well known guy on the teams, and has been for decades. He was one of the original guys. He's been in books and stuff, and I got to show him that knife, and I did little stuff to it. Like I was really big into grip tape. Like I knives that have grip tape on them that have had them there for 30 years, and that was part of Sonny, right? Like the whole improving, making that grip rock solid. Like his whole thing was like, make me a knife that I can open my hand and it's not going to fall out, but it's also not latched in, right? It was like the impossible task. And so any way to get close to that, and for me immediately right off the bat, like years ago, was grip tape was a huge aid. And so I got to hand that knife back to the guy that designed it 30 years later.
Nice.
So yeah, I got to do and see and meet like some really cool people that language all came from sitting at the table, not just training, but sitting at the table and learning how to make what it is that you want, and that was all through Sonny. I never would have thought like, I'm going to go buy a grinder, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go do that, I'm going to go take this, thing, like start off big cheap, butter knives and machetes used to be $6 a piece or $6 for a couple of them, if you get good ones, and take them and regrind them, take a machete that's, got a 14-inch blade and then grind it down to this, and then do the same thing with the handle. I never would have thought to do stuff like that. So yeah, I own for all that for sure.
And,
For sure.
and he has more ideas, Jason does, about all those pockets.
Yep.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Let me just add one thing, Jason, just to I'm having fun talking about Sonny, by the way. I was talking to Pierre earlier this morning, and we were just talking about Sonny and his influence. Pierre also, the guy in Europe, and Andreas and all those guys in Europe. Sonny's footwork has also influenced Pierre in how he moves and adding it to his art as an example, right? So to this day, we still talk about Sonny. I still talk to Jesse Glover in Seattle. He's the only one left out of Bruce Lee's students that's still alive. He's 80 something, and we still talk about Sonny and Jesse, his best friend. And Sonny and Jesse had built a house that they built, which is the martial arts portion of it, and that kind of grew. And they're both are gone, but it continues to all the students. But going back to Jason, just briefly, the Cuerdas portion of it, and I don't know, Jason, can you see this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
This is a talon that they put on fighting roosters, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, it's the same angle as the Cuerdas portion of it, right? And that gouging portion of it applied to Sikaran was fucking amazing when Sonny applies it on you. So that Filipino cockfighting Cuerdas portion of it with that blade, or this is a regular blade. The Mexican blades are shorter, but just as sharp. But they're not there to kill. They're there to injure. Anyways, so but that motion of his Cuerdas with his feet are all a big part of his art. from the cordas portion, from the cockfighting portion, from the knife portion, also with the ancla and all that stuff. So all influences are part of that. I don't know. It's just fun to hear Jason talk about how that came about and how it influenced him, and it still does in some of the ideas that Sonny passed on to Jason in terms of design, functionality, hiding. That way, if you open your hand, it's there. Those are all ideas that Sonny had in his head, and I'm glad that he was able to transmit that. Right, that wouldn't have transmitted to me because I wasn't there. Right, that wasn't the life that I was living. But to Jason, who was in the knife portion of it, knife making design, that was gold, and influenced other people as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, I just that Cordas stuff is just amazing, applied in all kinds of different ways. But that's just basically forward and backwards cutting, right? So, anyways, I just enjoy listening to Jason. He cut a slit, put a knife in. I love it.
Yeah, no, there's all kinds of stuff, and wallets of sheaths and all other, like, and that stuff is all, and whether it was direct, I'm not going to say that that's directly from Sonny, but it is stuff that people within that community are now finding value, and a lot of people that are working within the real securities industries that are not just low level, like what I would say I was doing, herding drunks and
Yeah.
whatever else, but like folks that are working, in executive production and other kind of stuff, or people going through, dangerous environments and trying to get from one point to the other, and improvising weapons and all that kind of stuff. And son, man, he would be amazed, I think, to see what that world looks like now.
Mm.
Because like so much stuff to him that was just like, I feel like I had to draw it out of him in a lot of ways, because it wasn't, I think maybe there was a reticence because it was like just darker, bad, not great stuff. But there's also you can do good stuff with that by knowing and understanding those environments and understanding how to do all that stuff, or understand who does it or why or what. You can figure out how to skirt things and get away from stuff that you might not know that you're walking into otherwise. So there's a good side to all that too. And I just don't think he would have believed where that world has gone, right? The majority of people out there now is just, that's like, Sonny would be like at the center of it, and just, I think people would be pretty amazed by what he knows.
Even back then when I first met Sonny, late 80s, probably right 90s, he was already in movement comes to draw already. He was already there, and as you're moving or evading it, there's a draw already, or blah blah blah, drawing.
Yep.
And all that stuff is common now in the gun people, right? But even back then, he was already part of his motion. It's
Yep.
I wouldn't say hidden, but it was part of his DNA already, to where he's already drawing either hand in
Right.
movement, right? So I thought that was like, I didn't know what that was, but I didn't know what it was for, but now I see it through the years, right? But Jason is also from that, these guys, the last generation, that was built into what they were doing, but back then it was new to me, right? And the reason for why, but all that hidden movement was already in play, and so anyways, I just appreciated watching it. All the guys do it now, and it's in movies now, and all that stuff it's been fun to watch. But just remembering how it was there, how it was coming about back then was fun to watch, right? And watching Jason and his designs come through, it's just a joy. And then we go back to the newer guys who are translating some of the stuff they're learning from CERN. They're teaching it their own way. That's also been fun to watch. Just Sonny, just be happy. Just Sonny, just be happy. That's not proper English, but that was my Sonny, just be. So, hey, I English 101 for me, but yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know, just Sonny still influences us to this day. We still talk about him and what he's done for us, and in several generations below. And then I'm thinking that Greg's students now will take that and make something of it on their own, or do something else with it, apply it some other way. So it just keeps living, and I think that's the whole point of this whole thing, is that we take some of that and then give it and then share it, and that's how it that's how it stays alive, if I can put it that way, right? So, anyways, I'm just enjoying sharing Sonny at this stage. So,
For sure. For sure.
did you just say for sure?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Can you say it like the guys from Oakland?
Oh,
No.
for sure. For sure. For sure.
All right, I'm done messing around. Can I show you guys one thing?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
This is fun. Anything that I can do is share Sonny, right? This is
Yeah.
this is Sonny's. This is, I don't know if you guys can see it. This is Sonny's. This is Sonny's period,
Yep.
and I don't know how it came from, but it says, I don't want to take off the sticker, but it says, my first rattan stick in the USA, a gift from my mother. From the Philippines, I carved the handle. It says saved. Sonny Umpad, 1970. Right?
Wow.
And,
That's so cool.
and this is one of them. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yeah.
This and Sonny carved that.
Yep.
And to me, that's just everything that I want to share of Sonny, is
Yep.
his love for the art, his love for making things, and to make something out of nothing, making it beautiful. And this transfers to all this art. And I'm sorry, I touched that without paying homage to Sonny, but this is the kind of stuff that that makes me smile, because this is his life's blood, if you will. Right? So, anyways,
Yep.
okay, that was my share.
Yep.
No, that's great. I think it's great for people to see, his contributions into, the culture, the art, but also just to see his creativity and his craft and how strong his influence is in a variety of ways. So it's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that struck me too. Like we talked about before, walking into his apartment, it's just all the weapons and all the handcrafted things that he made. And it was a testament to the dedication, but it was also just an exhibition of his creativity, and the way he would just approach things was very well. It was slick, It was like made something out of nothing, But it was also a testament to his problem-solving skills. Just because you couldn't afford the nicest or the most efficient or effective thing, it doesn't mean you couldn't make one,
Yeah.
And he wasn't bound by tradition, which I love, because some people are like, oh, that's not a traditional pinuti, or that's not a traditional whatever. And he was big on just, well, you know what? If you need it, just make it. Just like down to the tools, down to the frustrator, down to the non-droppable knife. It's just like he was very custom made, and the way he also taught was very custom made. Was like, what does this person need? And this is how I can turn these dials and kind of pull this back and tease this out. And now it's like he's doing what I think would make him a better fighter. And so there's just so much genius there. And I don't, it's hard for anyone to really, from the outside looking in, to really appreciate it until you see it firsthand.
At the end of the day, it's self-expression, right? And influenced by Sonny and all the other people in our lives. And but I just love talking about sharing Sonny's life, and because it's been good for all of us. So I in my heart, man. So, Anyways, Greg, can you show us how to talk like a DJ kind of?
I'm telling you, it's the equipment. It's not me.
From
Equipment. I mean, like, do you have to lower your voice, your tone, your
A
cadence?
few octaves. You know, actually, I go into
Gotcha.
AI, and this is not even my real voice. You know, so.
That's what we need is AI.
Yeah,
That's what we got to
exactly.
do.
AI.
But kind of backing up everybody and Greg specifically what you just said, and like taking something from nothing and making something ingenious. Like again, Renato and I are both very bad at this, but so this is one of his, and this is like either a half done trainer or it's actually sharp, so it's hard to say. But what I want to show is not just the overall design itself, right? But is this in the guard,
Nice.
this guard, that's a fork that's been reforged and cut down, and you can see the two tines.
I love it.
Can you see that?
Yeah. Hi.
The two tines that have been recurved here, and he would take within his house, and he'd have it. You know, I think I've got the large vise that he used to use, and you know he heat stuff up and peanut, and he's in an apartment,
Yeah.
you know. And that's a lot of the necessity of invention too, was being quiet while you're doing this stuff, you know. And he took that and he ground this down he took off the two tines, ground it down really pretty damn symmetrical, and turned it into an S curve guard, and then did an overlay that locked it in. I'm not even sure what that piece is there, but he locked this into blade to lock the whole thing together. Like he was in a real actual full size workshop, managed to do it. The grip in itself is amazing. The hand placement is amazing, right? But yeah, just that to me, the reuse of the fork, right, to make this something that's super functional, is just a great indication of the stuff that he would do.
It's
I
beautiful.
gotta add, Jason. I gotta add something. Can you show that knife again?
Sure.
No, the knife, the blade itself.
Okay.
Yeah, that shape. Can you do it like that? That shape right there is what got Jason, in my opinion, to do what he does with that short little knife of his. That shape right there. I'm saying that, Jason. It's my opinion, right?
Yep.
That shape right there is that half a thing there is that gets you in a lot of places that most people don't have. So that shape means a lot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people won't know that, but Jason can tell you a lot from that shape. Yeah. Would you agree, Jason? I'm putting words in your mouth.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That shape is very important to Sonny's art and his transference of that transference. So
And so people know that is not a Tonto.
it's not a tonto.
This is a very, very acute entry point as opposed to the flattened off
Yeah.
part. But this is
That
both shield and fulcrum at the same time.
all of the above. That
Yep.
that half a wave cutter is can get you to all these access to a lot of other things that Sonny was teaching. So that shape to me means a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna
and-
say it. It looks like a wave cutter. At least that's how he taught us wave cutter, was when he broke out that particular shape.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And but to get you, anyways, there's a lot to that shape, and maybe Jason can touch on that on our next conversation if we have one. But yeah, that shape is a lot. The handle is a lot. How he made it was a lot. But we can talk about that knife for a while and still get a lot out of it. So
For sure.
But one I wanted to show guys one other thing too that's also current right now. Current among a lot of training these days is hidden knives and honestly kind of that sleight of hand magician stuff, right? And some of it from all other parts of the world, but it's again it's funny to see this resurgence and people like finding and going like, oh, this is important information. So there's a lot of stuff where hiding the blade behind the hand and all that kind of stuff so you can't actually see it. I'm not sure what this was from. I'm assuming it was originally from a scissor, because I could see that's where the handle is down here. I can't even tell you what this material is. I don't know if this is actually wood or not. It looks like it's wood, and it's got a little silver band wrapped around the end. But this little thing right here, so,
Oh yeah.
right,
Yeah.
you can't see, right, before you feel it, kind of thing. And so we would work with a lot of stuff like this too, um, this way. But this was the main way, right? Because it's within pointing, and you're already that much closer, and it's hidden under here. But the whole idea was having it behind the finger here, and if you have to poke somebody in the chest, that person thinks you're a ninja because it's electricity. You hit the right place. It's an electrical shock. It's not so much, you're not cutting, you're not stabbing, you're not doing anything. You like hit and rake the right places on people. It makes them jump and they don't know what the hell that just happened because this person just poked you, and all of a sudden you feel like something really weird happened. And that's all part, again, the sleight of hand and the magician stuff and all that kind of things freak people out, make them feel weird, and they don't want to engage, where they may have wanted to before. And that's all. It's dark, and it could be as dark as can be, but you can also use that to an advantage to like stop an engagement.
Yeah, I remember seeing different versions of that and you showing us that too.
Yep.
I love the idea. Yeah, for sure. Concealment.
Yep.
Check your local laws, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, we don't condone or any of that.
This is before cell phones and cameras, ladies and gentlemen, if you can believe that.
For sure. Is there anything else to add before we close out here?
No, just like to this day, Sonny still influences just the biggest thing that I also learned from Sonny, because I have his mark on me. Just lastly, right? Every time there's a decision point in my life or about stuff, but Sonny was always inclusive. We're all together. We're all one kind of thing. We're all even. We're all helping each other out, and I think that's the thing that we can learn from Sonny. Not one is better than the other, and that's what I just want to say that because he never wanted to be called master Sifu and that's like he was just Sonny. He was just going through his journey. He was just sharing, and I think that's the most important thing that we can learn from Sonny is to be inclusive, right? So, anyways. Sorry,
he very much wanted to get those kind of those walls between specifically Philippine martial arts, but all stuff like kind of broken down, and was like saddened by the exclusivity of a lot of them, I think, and not because it wasn't worthwhile, but or that didn't understand, but because he saw growth as like everybody sharing and doing stuff, and so yeah, very very much so.
Jason, I got to share. When somebody took his design and you thought, made something out of it and didn't mention his name. That's one point, right? And his attitude might have been, oh well. Sonny's attitude was that those are just leaves in the tree, but the roots run deeper. There's more of that stuff where that came from. So he was never worried about the leaves or the fruits that are out there, people getting and doing something with it. There was always more, and I think that's what made him more a better way to keep information coming in. As you're giving it out, there's more information coming in to replace it, to make it better. And so he was never worried about people getting his stuff, if you will.
Right.
One of his students got videos of him doing this and that, and they felt that they got everything, and then they walked away. But Sonny was never worried. That's why I think he developed from that to something else. He just kept moving forward because the roots were running deep, and there was more stuff there, and all you had to do was pay attention to it or give it room to grow. And I think that's why he was never worried about people getting his stuff, because there will be more And students come in like you, Jason, and then he more stuff would come out. Another person might be this, like Greg and Jasper. Oh, more stuff will come out. So he was always sharing because the roots were running deep. He was never worried about the small leaves outside, the fruits outside, and he just ran deep that way, and that's what made him so much better than other things. So, anyways.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways too. That's also the way he taught seminars. When I was fortunate enough to be with him at some of these seminars, and he would always say, "Let's try to give them something they might not have, or that would make them better." And so
Right.
I love that perspective and that spirit, and that's kind of influencing me as well on how I contribute that to the greater kind of FMA culture. And this generation is different too, if I can speak to that, as far as like trying to drop those barriers and really come together and learn from each other and cross train. And I think he'd be really happy to see that if he were still around here today. So his spirit lives on, his influence lives on, and we're always happy when we get to talk about our friend, our teacher, Sonny Umpad. So thank you guys for joining us for this other episode of VSCK Podcast, where we talk about Sonny and VSCK. If you have any questions or comments, concerns, oppositional thoughts, leave them in the comments, because we'll see them and we'll respond back to you. And until next time, take care of each other. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.